Imagine a world where you're not afraid that the bad guys are going to get access to your personal information when you're getting on your computer. Imagine that your credit cards and financial data are not going to be shared with the wrong persons. Imagine that you can browse to a website or open up an email without the worry that you might be downloading a nasty piece of malware to your computers. Well, sad to tell you, the answer to that question is that such a world does not exist today. And I'm sure most of you already know that. So hello, my name is Sarbari Gupta, and I've been working for over 25 years in the field of cybersecurity, starting from graduate school. So in all of these years, I've performed research, I've written standards and guidelines, I've helped to build tools in this area, I've helped to build multiple solutions for different types of customers that we serve. I'm here today to tell you about a little secret in our industry and to propose an idea that can help to build a better and a brighter future for all of us. So as we all know, our professional as well as our personal lives are increasingly getting into the cyber environment. So businesses cannot survive, nor can they thrive without the connectivity that they have to their customers and their partners. And we as individuals, today, we are hyper-connected to our multiple devices and multiple messaging applications, social media applications, you name it. So we literally live, breathe, and even sleep, while connected to the internet. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. So, what happens when we are connected? What we may not quite realize or think about is that when we're connected to the internet, we are also connected to billions of other entities who are connected to the internet as well. So we may think we are relatively safe sitting in the comfort of our home, sitting and working on our computer, but we are potentially exposing ourselves to millions and millions of other entities who are on the internet who want to get to us and steal something from us, let's say. So if you think about it, it's almost like living in a neighborhood which is very crime infested. And imagine that you're living in such a home, in such a neighborhood, and this home has lots and lots of doors and windows. But the funny thing is, this home does not have any locks on those doors and windows. So what does this mean? It means that anybody from the neighborhood can walk in any time of the day they like into your home. It means that they can come in claiming to be whoever they want to be. They might come in and say, hey, believe me, I'm a policeman. Or, hey, believe me, I'm your banker. And you'd have no way to tell whether that's true or not. Imagine also that they can walk in with various types of packages into your home, and those packages might actually have dangerous materials inside of it. Imagine also that they might be able to walk into your home, steal valuable objects from your home, and then walk right out, and you wouldn't be any wiser. You wouldn't even know that this happened. And sometimes they might walk into your home, kidnap your child, and walk out with him or her, and then call you demanding ransom. So that's the cyber world we live in today, whether we like to admit it or not, and hence the importance of the field of cybersecurity. So, the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, defines the term cybersecurity as the art of protecting networks, devices, and data from unauthorized users. So notice that the targets of protection are networks, devices, and data. Now, another thing within our industry, within the cybersecurity industry, there's a classic model called the subject-object model that we learned early on. And in this model, there's a subject who is typically a user who is trying to get access to an object, which is typically a system or a database of some sort. Now, in this model, before the subject is allowed access to this object, the subject is asked multiple questions and made to go through multiple hoops. So the questions that the subject typically has to answer are questions such as, who are you? And why should we let you in? So as you can imagine, the classic world of cybersecurity is really about protecting systems and data and networks. It's really not about the user. So, you may ask me, so who is looking out for the user? Who's looking out for the safety and the security of the user? Well, again, the sad but simple answer is that the answer is no one. No one is really focused on that. In fact, in most IT environments, the user is considered more of a liability than an asset. We consider the user as the weakest link of the cybersecurity protection chain. And because of that, most organizations, they subject their employees and their staff to training that's mandatory and frequent, training on topics such as security and privacy, in the hope that maybe the user will retain some of this information and be able to apply it when they're online. In fact, organizations frequently, they load products called endpoint protection tools, such as antivirus, anti-spam, safe web browsing, things like that. And these tools, however, as the name suggests, it's really about protecting the end point, meaning that that device or the laptop, or that workstation that you're working on. So it's really not about the user, although the tools sound like they're protecting the user, but they're really not. And then think about the home users or children, they don't have the benefit of these security and privacy training sessions, right, that organizations give to their staff, nor do they have the benefit of many of these endpoint protection tools. They're very sophisticated tools, but they're also expensive. And so as you can imagine, as our networks and our systems are getting more and more hardened to protect against attacks, we users are indeed the soft targets in this model or this environment. And so, each of us, we are end users on the internet today, right? I mean, anybody who's listening to this talk. So let me ask each of you a question. Think about the answer. So as an end user, what do you possess or what do you know that you think might have value to a bad guy out there? So I'll give you a few moments to think about it. So if I'm going to guess that some of the answers that probably popped into your mind are things like, that passwords and pins for multiple systems that you have access to that might be of interest to a bad guy. You probably know personally identifiable information, or PII, things like date of birth, social security numbers, or mobile numbers, addresses, etc. Not only about yourself, but also for your close family members that might be of interest for identity theft, for example. You probably also have multiple credit cards that the bad guys would love to lay their hands on to steal your money. And then you actually have money, right, that the bad guys would want to get their hands on. So they would like to trick you into either sending money somewhere online or to make a purchase, perhaps, that you otherwise would not have made. And so, and then let's think about the corporate user, a staff. If you're an employee in some organization, most likely you have sensitive information about that company or that organization. Sometimes it's proprietary information, and the bad guys would love to get their hands on it. And, and your competitors, the competitors of your company, might actually try to do some harm to your company if they come to know that data, right? So, so we have a lot of data that is valuable to bad guys, and you know what? The bad guys have figured this out. Although, as I just mentioned, in the cybersecurity world, we're still trying to protect the systems and the networks and the data only. And so, as the bad guys are figuring this out, let's think about, as a typical user or a typical end user, let's say, I'm guessing that you probably have several email accounts that you check daily. I would guess that you probably use multiple messaging applications or social media applications that you check, every now and then. You probably visit a lot of websites, for different types of services, right? Now, through all of these connections, you are interfacing with other entities out there on the internet. And if you have noticed, you're constantly getting bombarded with attempts to either make you believe something or to make you take some action that you would not otherwise have taken. So I've been painting a very scary and dire picture to you thus far about the internet and the cyber world, right? So what is the solution that I'm trying to, share with you today, right? I'm here to share an idea. So I believe it's time for us to start thinking about the user as a valuable object or a valuable entity that we want to protect. In fact, our company, we've been developing a concept called that we call user-centric zero trust to help in this arena. And so User-centric refers to the fact that in this model, the user is at the center of the trust universe, basically. So all of the protections are about protecting the user. And then zero trust refers to the fact that as the user, by default, the user distrusts or has zero trust in every other entity that the user, or every other entity that is trying to connect with the user, let's say. So that's the concept, user-centric zero trust. Now, some of my cybersecurity colleagues might say, hey, Sarbari, what are you talking about? We already have such solutions out there, such techniques and solutions. And so things like, for example, web server certificates, or signed and encrypted email, or scanning tools of various types, right? But my answer to my colleagues would be, yes, of course, such techniques and tools do exist today. However, these tools, the ones that exist today, are neither robust nor are they easy to implement consistently. In fact, even when they're implemented, such tools leave a lot of responsibility still in the hands of the users, and the users are asked to make decisions about whether to trust or not to trust, whether to go or not to go. And frequently the users don't have, the background, they're not, armed with the information they need to make that decision wisely. So my call to action today is to really, for us all to embrace the IT and the cyber professionals and the industries, to embrace the notion that the user is a high value asset worth protecting with multiple layers of protection. So, we need to conduct more focused research on what tools exist already that can be repurposed for this end goal, or if they can be refined further, or to come up with creative new solutions, totally different types of approaches for protecting the user. Now, if we are indeed embracing the concept of user-centric zero trust. So if we did that, then it might be easier for users to feel more safe in the cyber environment, right? So to kind of paint a picture for you, in an ideal user-centric zero trust environment, if we can indeed get to that sort of a model or architecture, there would be characteristics of that, in that environment that would be very similar to the protections that are afforded to a head of state, let's say like a king or a president, for example, or maybe a very wealthy person who lives in a private estate. So imagine this private estate, it would probably have high walls around the perimeter to deter, random entry by folks. And it would probably have tripwires and monitored cameras in case somebody is able to scale the walls. For every entry point to that estate, you would probably expect that there would be armed guards, who would be blocking access. Now, visitors coming into trying to get into that estate, they would probably be vetted through multiple layers. They would be asked to prove who they are, their identity, and what reason do they have to enter that compound. And if they're bringing in any packages, that would be a check for security and safety. And when the visitors leave the compound, they would likely be checked to make sure that they're not carrying out any object that did not belong to them. So, I am looking forward to a new era of cybersecurity where users feel safe and confident working on their computers. And I would like to inspire and request my cyber colleagues or IT colleagues out there to embrace this new mindset, this new perspective, because I believe that, they say that you get better answers if you ask better questions. So I truly believe that if we can take on this new perspective that in addition to protecting the systems and the networks and the data that we've talked about multiple times, the user, the end user, and the information they possess, or money they possess, let's say, is of value, and that we need to protect it. I sincerely believe that if we can take on the new perspective and mindset, the creative juices in our IT and cyber industries, we'd be very quick to come up with solutions that address the problem, and we can all live in a safer and a better internet world or cyber world, and feel confident that we are secure. Thank you.